I don't think people, I'm going to kind of pause on this real quick. Let's just break this down real quick for our listeners and for those that are reading the book and the audio version of this. Look, so Kane goes in and has no formal educational background, goes in and wins this job. 200 applicants, goes in, top in there, the top, true, that whole true Chris Gardner story just starts from the bottom, gets to the top. Guy comes in and poaches him and says, hey, now you're going to come part of my business and we're going to teach you. So then he's teaching and learning. And then he says, all right, well, we want to be innovative. And his mentor's like, no, we're going to stick with status quo. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And he's like, I'm going to leave because I got to follow my passion and my purpose. And then he's told, well, yeah, you're probably not going to be nearly as successful as me. I mean, I could just see you leaving this big firm, and probably people are like, what are you doing? Like, why are you leaving? And then you start this, and then he's like, why are you leaving? Like, why are you giving up, quote unquote, freedom, right? And people try to equate money with freedom when it doesn't. You're hitting it on the head. You can't build a life around just money. I mean, you can't, in the sense of, you can't just think, if the more money I have, the happier I'll be. I know plenty of multimillionaires that are just unhappy with where they're at, but the money's good, so they're not where they're at. And I love that, following that true north, the purpose. When people understand their purpose, when they understand what they're doing and the direction that they're going, all the naysayers and all the noise out there, it doesn't matter, because the purpose, how you're getting there, and there's all these little milestones that are along the way. I think it's just, man, that is so good. I mean, we could stop here and let everybody digest that, but we won't, because we got a few more things to get to. And man, that's fantastic. So I want to move back to now the giving back. You talked about going on to the board. I love it. So I wanted to, this aspect I want to read this here. Coming up in life, right, there are more times than not, we are overlooked by society, as cast off. You do a lot of work with these quote unquote cast off. You were part of that program, this boys program. You're part of the youth project. You're on the board of Boys Town, working with the PCYC Australia, and you're working on building a retreat for youth. It's not a small task. It's not a small task. So first, what is the purpose behind giving back? I mean, where is that? Help us get into that understanding of giving back to essentially the place that you learned the hard knocks from. So why give back? Why give back?
Well, it's this constant thought that used to go through my head a lot for many years, and it was more on the basis that statistically I shouldn't be where I am. I beat the odds, right? Not just on getting out of the life I was in, the upbringing I was exposed to, all the people I was around, just having a normal life and coming out of that life into a normal life, having an average job, having a family, and not going down a really, really terrible path. The odds are very, very slight. But I actually went beyond that. And that's when I first proved people wrong, or proved the odds wrong. And I was like, people are like, oh, you shouldn't, go into finance. I remember I used to work in the mines, and folks used to see like stock charts in my room and books, and they just thought, what the hell are you reading a book for, man? You freaking work in a mine. And then years later, running into a couple of these guys that we worked with at a funeral. One of the guys we worked with died many years later. And I remember I had a business at the time. They're like, oh man, I seen you on that thing and on social media, and you're killing it. And it's just this moment of like, holy shit, everything that could have stopped me could have been just me accepting what they pushed on to me as their beliefs. Mm-hmm. And I chose to say no. And because I didn't allow those thoughts to dictate my own, I pushed the status quo. And then when I got to this point now, and it's like, okay, I'm pretty privileged. I'm not ultra wealthy. I'm not like flying around in jets, but I'm living I could live a pretty above average life, and I'm headed on a track down a path where I eventually will be able to retire. I think well before my retirement, and I'll be able to do a lot of cool things. But it's not even my life is. I could live off such minimal wage. I don't really want a lot, and then I realized that it's almost like this luck I want to pass on. I want people to understand it's possible. I want to instill belief in people. I want to be that spark that sets them on that path to get the momentum and belief, because I didn't really wake up and go, hey, I want to be all the way up here doing all these things. It was like, hey, I might just get up this next level. And then when it happened, I went, oh, that's interesting. I achieved that. Everyone was wrong. And then it was like, maybe we'll go a bit higher. And ever since then, it's just like, can we go a little bit higher? Can we go a little bit higher? And I think that's where you start to realize there's unlimited possibility. And the only thing that holds you back is not trying, or not doing, or not taking action. And, now it's like, well, I one day, when I say I want to own my own retreat, it's not like I'll probably do it at, I'm in my 30s now, so it probably won't even be 40, probably won't even be 50, it might be 60, be somewhere like 20, 30 years down the track. Do all this stuff in business. I do a lot of volunteer for youth. I've done foster care in a teenage kid. It's something I really enjoy contributing to, and I feel like you should give back. It's almost like, I don't know, like a guilt or a gratitude thing. It's a bit of both. It's a very mixed emotion. But I still don't understand, was it luck that got me out? Because it almost has to be luck. It's like the odds are so far against me that, like I said, I landed on the spot in that job, and then I succeeded in the internship, then I got poached, and then it's like, there's been heaps of adversity through it, but it just seems like it just gets better every couple of years. There's a bit of adversity and things get better, and it's just like, it keeps just putting me on this path. And I feel like maybe there's something I'm meant to just share through my life experience back to some other kid. That all they need is someone just to tell me, you can do it. I've done it. It's got to be okay. Believe in yourself, take that job. Because if I listen to a lot of the negative people, the limiting people, I definitely wouldn't have done it. I would have been still sitting in a labouring job, there's nothing wrong with that, doing an honest living. But I would have had a labouring job. I wouldn't have pushed my education. I probably wouldn't have believed in myself. I probably would have left it at that, and could have easily accepted life for what it was.
Man, I don't even know where. I mean, we could run millions, but so then how does not just, focusing on, obviously you have to be a high performer, especially in the space that you're in, right? You especially, you come from nothing, you get a good intern, you get a good job, and then next thing you know, you're in the status quo, you're just kind of living comfortable, right? And then the comfortability, it's like, how do I get uncomfortable being uncomfortable? How do I get comfortable being uncomfortable? And then you get poached. And then you're, all right, we're kind of in this new groove and it's now comfortable. So it's like, how do I get comfortable being uncomfortable? And you start this whole thing, and now we're giving back. And so how is giving back help you, continue to be at performing at such a peak level? How is it that you give back and it helps you, stay consistently peaking, or, at that top level of just being a high performer?
Oh, well, interesting question. Really good question, actually. One of the first experiences I had was I started working with one of these youth centers. So a lot of the youth centers in Australia are run by, police officers. They have a youth police officer that works with the kids. And I had a lady that worked with me from 12 years old all the way through my teens, in and out of trouble with the police, in and out of school, suspended, kicked out, removed. And I seen her in the paper 8 years ago. And I seen her in the leader. My mum actually goes, hey, so-and-so's in the leader. She's still working with the kids. She was running all these new programs, getting sponsor in. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to call her up and reach out to her. And all I did was just want to touch base with her and thank her. She ended up inviting me in to start speaking. And then she started to send me around to different states in Australia to talk. and then sent me to the police academy, like the largest police academy almost in Australia, that talked to like 500 police officers. And I was like, I'm the last person that should be presenting to police, you know? And I was just cracking out, and I was just laughing when we went down there, and she drove me down, and that I shared the insight to, you know, troubled youth and the behaviors and the psychology, just so some of these police officers can understand from my perspective that some of these kids can change. You just need to give them a chance, and, you know, not too many chances. But, yeah, and then one of the first times I spoke at a high school, I had kids come up to me at the end of it, like 12-year-old, 14-year-old kids that were like the naughtiest kids in the school. I had one kid break down in front of me and cry and start sharing stuff about his, you know, traumatic, household situation, let's say, you know, and like even the teachers were shocked, and I just got this overwhelming feeling of just, it was unbelievable. It was better than any business success. It was better than any KPI or, yeah, any monthly P&L that we hit, you know, anything that surpassed anything. And I just couldn't explain it. And it was so overwhelming. If you could just have that experience where you actually contribute someone to someone's life, I never realized how fulfilling it could be, just to say all the stuff I went through now had a purpose and a meaning behind it of why it might have happened. And it made me look at my own past in a more grateful way, rather than pain or suffering or victimized. And then I've used that now to keep pushing. And then, you know, you use that as what pushes me forward, not what holds me back, sort of thing.
Oh man. Now you have this attitude of gratitude, right? You grew up a certain way,
Yeah.
but because that was your path, right? That was the path that was yours. You've now turned that from a negative into a positive, as cliched as it is, but it's true. I mean, that internal drive now that it's amazing when you see the spark in kids, right? When you can connect with a child from a similar background or from a space where they can just understand, it elevates you, and it takes you to this new space of there's now this new purpose of, hey, I've got to do, it's not about, hitting this quota, but I need to get this done quicker so I can go fulfill something else. And I think that is so awesome for you to just say, man, that's awesome, because what you're doing is you're giving people a clear and concise direction, right? You're giving, especially these youth that you give back to and you talk to. I've seen a lot of your videos where you're talking to youth. And so when you help them, youth, and you're speaking, you're giving them, direction. Can you, give us two aspects, if you will, that has had the most profound impact currently to your professional, in your professional career, whether it's, one of them was the boy who comes up sobbing to you, telling you about that. How does that impact you? How does that keep you as a professional? How does it help you kind of just be grateful for what you have and keep focusing on what you could potentially bring into others' lives?
I think it's the fuel. It definitely fuels. Humans we all have a depletable willpower. Willpower is a resource that after, so much resistance, you get worn down. People get run down, you get sick. That's why you get sick. Entrepreneurs get sick all the time. We overwork ourselves, we lack sleep. So willpower is a depletable resource in my eyes. And I think you need something more that comes from the gut, that comes from emotion, that drives you beyond. That's why purpose is so important. And you really need to be able to hook into that. And human beings have so much strength when under the sort of right circumstances or the right reasons. Like a parent would die for the child, do anything. But then you see all these parents that just quit on their own goals. Your parents won't even go out and work hard for their own future, but they'll sit there and they'll die for the kids. And I'm sure they would, but it's just like we would actually do more for others than we'll do for ourselves. it's human nature, right? It's built into us, especially, you know, parent to children, and sometimes we'll do more for a friend than ourselves, and it's easy to fix something else. And so I think finding that resource, and for me, it was something that lit me up. I think it gave me hope. It gave me hope that everything that I got up to this point wasn't just to provide me a comfortable life or a better life for my family. Yeah, I realized that a lot of the pain and suffering and adversity throughout my life had a meaning. It happened for a reason, and it was happened to build me up and make me the person I am, to be able to share my story, because I can connect through those stories. I can relate to pain. I can relate to suffering, and pain and suffering doesn't really, it doesn't really separate itself in any way. You know, pain is pain, suffering, suffering, trauma is trauma. So someone can be traumatized as a kid because their 20-year married parents separate because dad's cheating on mum, right? And it doesn't mean it's not, the trauma that they can feel could be the same as someone that's come from an abusive family. The story of how the traumas come off can almost be the same. And if you get severe trauma enough, it can cause damage to the circuitry in the brain and the psychology and development of children. That can happen if someone's allowed enough emotional stress, and it's trauma from their parents breaking up and they've come from an affluent family. There's no difference to that feeling. We can still relate on that level. So, it's like when you say you felt love, like love's the same, and you can't explain it, but you can feel it and share it with someone. So, it's helped me sort of understand that whole relatable piece. So
with that, I mean, give us 2 or 4 points that you try to convey to these kids, that when you're talking to them, I mean, you go in and you speak, I mean, obviously they want you to speak on a topic, but what are, 2 or 4 points that you're trying to convey to these kids about, your topic, or just life in general? I mean, what you going with this purpose? So bring us into that space, and what are you trying to convey over to these kids?
Good question. There's normally a few things. Trying to get young people to think ahead. Think as you go through such a social change. When you're growing up and you hit puberty, it's about the cool kids and being seen, and trying to do the right thing. And I share a couple of stories of my childhood where I watched some of my mates like go to jail and some pretty other serious stuff, like dead and end up on drugs. And at the end of the day, you got to do what's right for you. And one of the trigger points of change in my life also was a few events and letting my family down, and realizing that I was raised better, and thinking about those you care about. Mine was my mum and my little sister, and I had to sort of step up and just try and get people to think differently, not be drawn in. Don't let other people dictate your views. If you want something, do it. Go for it. You're better off to try, sort of thing. But yeah, you can't feel sorry for yourself. The world is harsh, and I talk to a lot of kids that come from troubled backgrounds, and the question before that I answered was being relatable to pain. So I can walk into a room and say, and they all think I'm a guy in a suit still, but and I can say to them, like, I've been where you've been, and I'm here, so I know what it takes to go from where you are to here. And I'll tell you what, one thing is, you can't sit there just feeling sorry for yourself. I know life sucks, and I agree with them. It fucking sucks. Sorry for the language, but it sucks going to a broken home, and it sucks that your dad's not there, or it sucks because you don't have money for that holiday, or it sucks that, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it's got to hurt more if you don't change. And that's what I say. And that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to be broke? Do you want to be broke your whole life? Do you want to have broken relationships your whole life? Do you want to have a broken family of your own kids? Because if you don't change, if you don't fix who you are, you have a bad relationship with your partner, you have a bad relationship with your kids, and you have a bad relationship with money. And change is not easy, but not changing is harder. And it's worth the effort to try and change. There's no guarantee you'll get it. It's worth the effort to try.
Man, that is wow. Yeah. That's just, I'm kind of in speechless, because that's what giving back, right? Giving back in that way. Now, people will probably listen to this much, just like, I didn't grow up that way. No, you're not. But what you're seeing though is, and you're hearing that given this opportunity to give back, whether it's on a small scale, big scale, whatever it may be, but it's always finding a way to give back. And I think that is the most important thing about what's been said, is performing at a high level. When you start giving back, it has a whole new purpose. It has a whole new meaning. You start to develop better. You start to read more. You start to engross more. You start to change your own nature, right? You break through some of those own physical limitations or those mental limitations, because the purpose now becomes bigger, becomes greater than just, like me, my family, that it does have massive purpose, but also giving back to those that just want one shot. Everybody's looking for just a shot. Give me the shot to prove myself. And I think that is huge in instilling that, and especially in the youth, because they're so open to learn and they want to learn. And when they find out, oh man, you're similar to me, you've been in that same space, you understand what that pain and hurt is like, right? That's just, it's fantastic and fantastic. I knew going into this interview, I was excited, but I had no idea we were going to get into this level we're getting into, man. It's just fantastic. I'm going to wrap this up. So here's the scenario. Let me just give you this little scenario here. So you're at the beach, because obviously you're in Australia. There's probably plenty of beaches around, right? You're getting ready to go swim, and an admirer of your work comes up to you and asks, can you please give me some pointers on how to stay in the grind when everybody around me is negative? So share with us, a few actionable items that you would be able to tell this person that is, help me stay in the grind. Help me stay in the grind. So give us, 2 or 4 points that you would say, here's what you would need to do.
Cool. It's a good one. So a good way to stick to a plan is preparation, right? Discipline. And how to be disciplined is structure. So having a framework of structure in place to not think, to not second guess. That's one thing. Always try and have structure, have discipline, have routine, build patterns of behaviors. The second thing is work out why you're doing it. Who's it for? Beyond yourself. Something beyond yourself. High power, high religion, a parent, a child, someone beyond yourself you can tie into when the willpower cuts out. And then you put the structure in for all the, sort of that behavior stuff, the stuff that you build through repetition. And the third thing is, I'm not sure there's too much of a third thing, but, maybe try and enjoy it along the way, and just give yourself time, be patient, because I think we spoke about this before we jumped on the call, was everyone wants the outcome, but no one wants to do the process. You just got to be realistic. It's not a friggin', it's not a Hollywood movie. It's not an Australian outback movie, depending on the country or Bollywood. But it's a process, and you got to be hungry for the adversity, and through the adversity, you will find and form the person you need to become. But you can't go and ask for something for life and not expect to transact on something on your behalf to accept it and become that person. So, you got to, if it makes sense, you got to be willing to know that it's not going to be a perfect road. When adversity comes, don't quit, because if you say to yourself at some point, I'm going to eat shit, and then when that comes along, you got to go, oh, that's right, this is a part of the process. So you're planning for that and you're preempting that. So you're changing the way of how you approach it when it does arrive. Your perspective's different. And that's the one thing I know, because I've always had challenges. Like even in our industry recently, in 2017, the financial planning industry went into a royal commission. 30% of the industry went bankrupt and went under or retired. So we were in a very vulnerable position. We just left the big practice. So straight again, it hit me and it didn't faze me. I was just like, okay, what do I do? Cut cost, worked harder, went back, think about different angles on social media. Just had to survive. Once we survived, now it's time to thrive, because there's a lot more clients out there because people are leaving. So, there's always opportunity for you to have that mindset to think of it as a challenge that comes up that you can solve the problem and work through, and it's like an achievement. So that'd probably be the third thing, if you just tie it all in.
Oh my gosh, that's just, fellas, guys. If you're not just itching to get going, I don't know what else we can do to get you going. But this has been a fantastic space. I mean, we could keep going on forever, but man, I appreciate it so much. You getting on and sharing your insights, your knowledge, street smart, your book smart. I mean, you have both. I mean, you have both street and book smart now, entrepreneur smartness. I mean, it's just fantastic. So, tell everybody, Kane, tell everybody where they can find you, your social media, how they can follow you if they want to get a hold of you. Like, just tell the viewers how they can, interact with you.
Yeah, no worries, Cameron. Yeah, it was great to be on. I really appreciate it. Like, all the best to all the listeners. If anyone wants to sort of stay in contact and follow along on my journey or got any further questions, the Instagram handle is Journey of Kane. That's Kane. So reach out, mate. It's open account. And yeah, I try and engage with everyone and just respond when I can and be transparent. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the book, mate, and seeing what's to come. I think this will be an awesome piece to a lot of people's learning.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Real quick, top 5 books that someone should either read or listen to.
Top 5. Yeah, I've read a lot of books, and I get a lot of people that ask me what book should I read, and I normally respond with, where are you at in life? Because the books were catered to that. So I will answer it though. First one for me was Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was starting out. I then read a really, really good book after that, which was the Warren Buffett's book, The Snowball Effect. Huge book. But a couple other inspirational ones would be, what is it? It's the Ray Dalio, Principles. Insane book. He had the largest hedge fund in the world, Bridgewater. Done a lot of stuff with Tony Robbins, one of the most successful CEOs in the world. No one knew who he was. Wrote a book called Principles. Another one called Emotional Intelligence, the psychology. And the 5th book, I'd say, read your book.
There we go. I love it. All right, I'm going to let you get going, man. I appreciate this time. I appreciate all you're doing. Keep up. Obviously, I'll stay following you. But this has been an awesome time, and I appreciate it.